This is one that is verging on cutesy. And I have an aversion to cutesiness. When I was in my early teens, Walt Disney's Bambi came out. And I was blown away by Bambi. And, I mean, it was superb animation, considering they were drawing one frame at a time and not using digital and all that. So I thought it was a terrific movie. I've seen it more recently, and it is really, really sappy. And it happened at that time in my life. My mother's friends were having babies. 46, 47, I was 16, 17, 18 years old, having been born in 1930. And so I started cranking out mass production, little cute babies' rooms paintings of Bambi, but Flower, the skunk, and my specialty was Thumper. I did lots of Thumpers, the rabbit, and I had a little formula. Formula is the end of creativity, but a lot of artists paint to formula. They work away in part of their career, create a formula, and then they crank out formulaic imitations of themselves for the rest of their career. And if they sell well, they have a happy, successful life cranking out formula. It's not creativity, and it has to do with craftsmanship, perhaps, but not to do with art. And that's perfectly valid. I mean, what's making a Stradivarius violin? It's getting a formula that is the most brilliant formula for violins in the world and cranking out perfect violins. So it's perfectly respectable. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not my cup of tea. However, in those days, I didn't have these philosophies and thoughts, and so but I was cranking out so many of them that I was getting this severe case of Disney diarrhea or Disney dysentery, and it was almost nauseating. And I had little Thumper across the pool from you, with his tail reflected in the pool and looking over his shoulder, in this cute way, his head turned, looking over his shoulder, and little mushrooms and toadstools around, and the base of a tree reflected in water. And I got, I'm a teenager, and I'm doing these baby paintings, and I'm kind of going, eh. So I started to do creepy things in the paintings, like putting little eyes peeking out from underneath the mushrooms. I remember in one case, I painted the reflection of a very sinister figure, gray figure, something like the Grim Reaper without the scythe, reflected in the pool, but it wasn't in real life. And so I've got this deep-seated aversion to cutesiness. However, I don't want that to completely inhibit me from painting young animals and occasionally painting things that people would call cute. The young animal doesn't think he's cute. I had all these pictures burning a hole in their slides, burning a hole in my slide collection of baby cougars doing different things. And I thought this would be a nice thing to do. And it sure was popular. As I almost always do, I wanted to backlight it. I wanted to strongly backlight it. In wandering around Salt Spring Island, this is fairly typical of a hilltop on Salt Spring Island. I've just got a chunk of habitat there with the fractured igneous or metamorphic rock and the nice little halo of light across the top of the golden grasses. I don't generally like green grasses, and I virtually never paint them. And the good old reliable Garry oak. After I started the painting, I did a lot of hiking around with the camera to get the right Garry oak doing the right thing, coming down over top of the composition like that in that rhythmic swinging way, because I wanted some branches and twigs in front of the cougar. Otherwise, she's so much in profile. She's kind of like a stuffed cougar. I've got the kind of key to the whole moment. It's a bit too anecdotal and therefore being a little bit sentimental, because it's a little bit of a story that the cub is venturing off on his own and he's about to take quite a big step in life type of thing. in that empty space. And of course I created all that as to what that's doing. The cub was, I think, probably playing around this old wagon when I got the original photograph. And I luckily had a photo of a cougar looking down, and I arranged them so the geometry worked for the little story. And I threw in another cub, which you can't really see hardly. And I did my classic Bateman misty background, flat, misty, just an in-between. If white is 0, black is 10, it's in there in the 5 or 6 range, so that the highlights on the cougar show up, and the dark bits in the cougar's muzzle and the cub's tail and paws pop off too. So it gives quite a strong 3-dimensional look. And you get a good feeling of space. Had to do a fair amount of observing of Douglas fir branches and so on in the misty backlit background. I sent the image, as we often do, normally do. When I do a painting, I send the image to my publisher at Mill Pond Press in Florida, and they thought it was terrific. Of course, it's very juicy, great market potential because it's cute. But they said, it would be even better if you put another cub in it, or the cub that's sort of hidden, put it looking straight at the observer, facing the observer. And I said, I draw the line there. That would be terminally cute, having a sweet little cub just staring straight at you. I've got my limits. I will only go so low for market purposes. They said it would sell better. I don't care. And it's sold just fine as it was. And that selling isn't my problem. Other people do the selling in my life and career, thank goodness. I couldn't sell apples as a Boy Scout.